Welcome to the Entangled Hearts channel. Here, we uncover the secrets of love and relationships, explore issues of infidelity. Join us and immerse yourself in the world of emotions. Mila walked out of the beauty salon, a sparkle of joy in her eyes. She strolled to the parking lot, got into her car, and once again glanced happily at herself in the mirror. Her phone rang inside her purse. The incoming call was from Theo. In the photo, a young man looked at her with wide-open eyes. His gaze drove the woman crazy, sincere, deep, and pure. "Hello, my dear," Mila replied with a cunning smile. "Hello, my beauty," Theo murmured softly. "I've missed you terribly. When can I see my queen?" "I think today would be perfect," the woman replied mysteriously. "Let's just go to a restaurant or straight to my place." The man perked up. "Lovely. I'll order sushi and get some good wine." "Consider it done, my queen," Theo happily agreed. The woman disconnected. Sometimes her lover's naivety irritated her. Despite the 7-year age difference, Mila felt like there was a 20-year gap. Theo, regardless of the numbers in his passport, remained an 18-year-old boy. They had met a year and a half ago when Mila came for a massage and ended up in Theo's hands instead of her regular specialist. During the session, they struck up a conversation. The blue-eyed blonde struck a chord with the woman, naive, even slightly silly, but oh so sincere. Mila became his regular client from that day forward. One late evening, he wrote her a love message, obtaining her phone number deceitfully from the administrator. Mila chuckled at the naive advances of the masseur, but then found herself getting carried away. Previously, she thought lovers appeared when love and understanding disappeared from a family. Her situation was quite the opposite. Her husband was a wonderful person, but distant. Mila genuinely admired him, was proud of him, and probably even loved him. She met Vivian during a difficult period for herself. Her previous relationship ended badly. The man she had lived with for 3 years deceived her. They were planning to get married, but he lost all the money saved for the celebration. Then Mila discovered the disappearance of her jewelry, even the earrings given by her grandmother were gone. Additionally, it turned out that her beloved regularly embezzled money from her shop. Mila was just starting her business. The showroom brought in a modest income, but even that slipped through her fingers. The breakup was painful. Mila felt emotionally destroyed, thinking she wouldn't be able to trust anyone again. She blamed herself for being so blind. At a friend's wedding, she met Vivian. He was the groom's boss, hence among the invitees. He spent most of the celebration sitting at the table, hardly dancing or participating in the games. Mila thought he was a bore, but her friend and the groom assured her otherwise. "He's really cool," the bride said. "You just need to get to know him." Vivian indeed turned out to be cool, a bit introverted but not boring at all, and definitely not a bore. Mila spent the remainder of the evening with him, and it was comfortable and peaceful. For the first time, Mila felt so free yet not alone in a relationship with a man. He didn't try to change her or dictate how to live, and she, in turn, understood and accepted his quirks. They made a harmonious couple. Vivian helped Mila set up her business. Over their 16 years of marriage, she managed to open another clothing store and a cosmetics showroom. Their relationship remained warm, but over the years, their shared interests diminished. Mila longed for activity and adventure, while Vivian preferred tranquility and never agreed to spontaneous trips or sudden outings. However, they somehow managed to find a compromise until Theo entered Mila's life. As Mila drove, admiring the beauty of spring outside, she glanced at the ceiling. The bedroom lights were off. Theo held her close, whispering affectionately in her ear. Perhaps it was these moments that she missed in her relationship with her husband. Vivian didn't know how to be so passionate and freely in love. He complimented his wife, but compared to the lover's words, they sounded dry and plain. Mila knew almost nothing about Theo, and most importantly, she wasn't eager to find out. They talked little about life, mostly, they just enjoyed their feelings. "Leave your husband," Theo suddenly proposed, stroking her hair. "No," Mila replied quickly. Theo froze. The woman realized she reacted too abruptly to the lover's proposal. "I love you, but I can't leave my husband," she explained. "Why?" Theo asked, surprised. "Because I love my husband too," the woman shrugged. "You love both of us," Theo insisted. "Is it possible?" Mila replied. "It happens," she continued. "I love you differently." "And whom do you love more?" Theo persisted. "Theo, stop asking silly questions," the woman waved him off. He was behaving like a child again. Mila was used to having a serious man by her side, so such antics irritated her. "Okay, I have to go," Mila said and got up from the bed. "You still haven't answered," Theo reminded her, slipping off the bed and approaching her. "I have nothing to answer you," the woman retorted. "I already said I love you both differently, but in bed, I'm 100% better," the masseur asked. "Yes," Mila nodded. The woman realized it was pointless to explain her emotional turmoil to Theo. If she were to say that she perceived her relationship with her husband differently even here, her lover wouldn't understand. Moreover, she didn't want to hurt him. Most of all, she didn't want to delve into their relationship. "Don't see me off," Mila shouted from the corridor as she hastily left the apartment. In the car, Mila dialed her husband's number. "Darling, I'll pass by our favorite pastry shop. Do you want anything?" the woman asked tenderly. Vivian loved sweets, Mila knew that. She wanted to do something nice for him. Choosing a pastry for her husband, she felt immense tenderness towards him. This feeling always overwhelmed Mila when she returned home, unlike with her lover. The woman didn't know why it happened, why meetings with other men awakened love for her lawful spouse, but these emotions brought her immense pleasure. Hugging her husband, Mila promised herself that she would end things with Theo tomorrow. She would never again trade her beloved husband Vivian for the foolish masseur. Yet by morning, the woman realized she wasn't ready to give up the passion that bound her to another man. Vivian was an excellent father to their daughter, a good son-in-law to her mother, and a wonderful son to his own parents. He was dear to her, but matters of the heart were unpredictable. A sense of bewilderment made her respond to the passionate messages from her lover, and their meaningless affair continued. "Dad, can we talk?" Alice peeked into Vivian's room, looking at him intently, quirking her eyebrows and biting her lower lip. The man knew well what would follow these theatrical antics. "We can talk," Vivian nodded, "but you're not going anywhere." "Why are you dejected?" Alice asked, shoulders slumping. "You don't even know where I want to go." "Given that you came to me instead of your mom, it's nothing good," he explained. "Come on, Dad." Alice rushed into the room, sat beside him, and hugged his arm. "It's Lisa's birthday," the girl said. "She's invited all my classmates. Can I please go too?" Vivian looked at his daughter. She was like a little kitten, cuddling up to him and lovingly looking into his eyes. Okay, he agreed, "but I'll take you and bring you back." Alice smiled and nodded. "Dad, can you keep something from Mom, please?" she pleaded. "You know it's wrong," he replied. "Daddy, please," Alice begged. "Mom will be furious and she'll scold me, and you too, probably." "I'll think of something," Vivian promised. Pleased, his daughter ran out of the room, blowing him a kiss goodbye. Vivian waved. "I've fallen for the little princess's manipulations," he realized. After all these years, he still couldn't say no to her. He knew his wife would be unhappy about this turn of events, if she found out. Vivian didn't want to cause her any extra worry, so he decided to keep silent about Mila probably wouldn't even notice her daughter's absence. There was a knock on the door. Vivian wasn't expecting anyone. He slowly rose from his chair and went to open it. Standing on the threshold was a young man with a huge sports bag slung over his shoulder. "Who are you looking for?" Vivian asked dryly. "You're Vivian, right?" "I'm Theo," the young man presumed. "By the way, are you younger than I expected?" he chuckled. "I love your wife. She loves me too. So as a gentleman, it's better for you to just leave our path," Theo boldly declared, squinting cunningly. "Bold of you to say so," Vivian replied confidently, squinting back. "I'm the straightforward type," explained Theo. "Mila is afraid to tell you the truth. She hasn't loved you for a long time and wants to live with me. Is it clear enough?" Theo glanced around the splendid corridor of his apartment. "Yes, it's clear," nodded the Vivian. "She deserves better. And you can't even satisfy her," Theo remarked, putting his bag on the parquet floor and untying his shoelaces. "I didn't invite you in," Vivian said. "And I don't need your invitation," the unexpected guest replied with a laugh, continuing to undress. "And what if I get really angry right now and break something?" Vivian asked. Theo stopped untying his shoes, straightened up, and smiled at the homeowner. "You'll be sorry," he said. "You'll have to go to the ER, then to the police station to file a report, then there will be legal proceedings, and you'll have to pay for damages. If I become disabled, then lifelong support. I think it's not in your best interest for me to break anything," Theo concluded. Vivian noted to himself that the stranger had quite the audacity. Probably, it was this quality that helped him achieve his goals. He brought his belongings in a smirk, Vivian noted. "You seem a bit light on belongings for the time being," Vivian retorted, "especially for your wife. Besides, I'm much more appealing to her without clothes on," added, raising his head slightly and squinting again. He didn't respond to the uninvited guest. After a brief pause, Theo resumed his speech. "You can be sarcastic all you want, but the fact remains the same. I'm sleeping with your wife. We're good together, and you bore her because you're dull. And, let's not hide it, you're getting old. Listen, why don't you just get lost from my apartment?" Vivian suggested. "Oh, go to hell," Theo responded in a languid tone. Vivian then grabbed him by the ear, as if dealing with a misbehaving child, and pushed him out the door. Theo was confident that Vivian wouldn't resort to violence. Mila always assured him that her husband was always composed and calm. So, the young man wasn't afraid of being physically removed from the apartment in such a ridiculous manner. He couldn't believe it, kicked out with just his socks on. Theo stood on the landing, feeling bewildered. The sports bag flew out after him. He rubbed his ear, which was burning, and behind him, the elevator doors opened onto the landing. Mila emerged and froze in terror at the sight of her lover on the doorstep of her own apartment. A wave of indignation washed over her. How dare he come here? What's going on here? Mila asked sternly, her face showing a concerned expression. Your lover came, Vivian replied roughly, wants to live with you. And I'm a bit against it. What lover? Mila exclaimed in surprise. I don't know this one. Theo looked at her, rolling his eyes. I know him more precisely, corrected the woman. Theo, she continued, relieved, he's my former masseur. I went to him a couple of times when my regular one was on vacation. He tried to get to know me, asked for my phone number. I didn't like it very much. I caused a scene, complained to the administrator. They apologized, offered a discount, and I never saw him again. The men exchanged glances. Theo looked bewildered at the woman he had been in bed with just yesterday. She portrayed confusion so naturally that he himself almost believed that there was nothing between them except for a few meetings at the beauty salon. You're normal, right? Vivian asked Theo seriously. I was just. Theo began, but Mila interrupted. Where did you get my address from? She continued to feign surprise. She turned to her husband. Where did you get the idea that he's my lover? He said so, Vivian replied. You see, he came with a bag, intending to live here. Delightful, the woman gestured, spreading her hands. Maybe I should call the police, she added. No need, Theo interjected, looking flustered. I got it. Sorry, he mumbled. He picked up his bag from the floor, rubbed his ear, and, muttering a couple of insults as a goodbye, staggered down the stairs. Let's go home, Mila asked. I'm really tired today. I won't go to the pool. Can you explain who this clown is? Vivian asked. I explained everything, Mila replied. Trust me, I hardly know him and can't imagine why he staged this whole show. Maybe after my scandal, they fired him, and this is revenge, Mila shrugged. Okay, let's suppose he's crazy, the man replied. But how does he know my name and where we live? My goodness, Vivian, I don't know, Mila shrugged. Let's just laugh it off and forget about this clown already. She quickly entered the apartment. In the hallway, they were met by a worried Alice. What were those screams about? The daughter asked. Nonsense, Vivian replied, pursing his lips. They got the wrong door. I see, the girl said, biting her lip. Mom, aren't you going swimming today? No, Mila replied. I might not go to the pool anymore at all. Mila stood by the window and watched what was happening outside. In spring, life flows in a special way. The warm May reminded her of how beautiful life could be. The main thing was to know how to enjoy it. Theo, stop sulking, Mila sweetly sang into the phone. You're also great for coming to my house, a fearless knight without fear or reproach. You made me look like an idiot, Theo replied. You made me out to be one. Anyway, it doesn't matter, she interrupted him. You just shouldn't have come. Why? I love you. I want to live with you, the young man blurted out. I want a family, not hiding and lying. Mila sighed. It seemed that the blue-eyed handsome man really fell in love with her. Just be patient, please, she asked. Everything will work out. Let's meet today, let's have a romantic date. Do you want to? Yes, I do, Theo murmured. He continued to show that he was offended, but clearly didn't want to argue. Mila booked a table at a restaurant, lied to her husband and daughter that she was going to the pool, and went to meet her lover. After the play on the landing, Mila was the first to call Theo. In her mind, she understood that she needed to use this chance and end the silly relationship, but for some reason, she kept dialing his number time after time. The evening passed perfectly. Theo was a bit sulky at first, but then he switched to his usual romantic tone. He called her his queen again and showered her with compliments. And Mila felt completely happy. As promised, Vivian first took their daughter to visit, and then, after a few hours, went to pick her up. Thanks for covering for me with Mom, Alice smiled, chewing gum. Now breathe, Vivian ordered. I had a glass of wine, admitted his daughter. Just one though. All right, he said mockingly, chuckling. Let's go home. You'll take a shower and quickly go to bed before Mom smells your just one truth. Alice smiled. The car rolled through the city. The girl looked out of the window for a long time, then suddenly asked, Dad, you won't leave us, will you? What? Vivian was surprised. You won't leave us for another woman? Clarified Alice. At Lisa's, her dad found himself a new wife. He has a new family now, where Lisa isn't needed. They hardly see each other, and Lisa can't stand the woman he lives with. But you're our dad. I won't leave, Vivian affirmed. I promise you. Your mom and I love each other. That's good, nodded the satisfied girl, leaning back in her seat. By the time the car pulled into the courtyard, Alice was almost asleep. Vivian didn't immediately notice the two human figures. A man and a woman stood at the exit door. He didn't let go of her hand, pulling her closer to him, reluctant to let her go home. Vivian froze for a moment, scrutinizing their faces. He recognized his wife's snow-white coat. And then, when the headlights illuminated their figures, he saw her face. Standing next to Mila was that same vaguely familiar masseur. Vivian slammed on the brakes sharply. His heart constricted in his chest, Mila recoiled in fear from her lover. Above all, she didn't want her daughter to catch them like this. Alice raised her head, first looking at her father and then to where he was staring. She jumped out of the car, rushed to her mother, and pushed her with all her might. "How could you?" The girl screamed. You traitor." Mila lost her balance but managed to stay on her feet. Vivian, who had hurried over, grabbed his daughter's hand. "Not now. We need to calm Alice down first. We'll talk with your wife later," he said, trying to suppress his own emotions. The enraged Alice continued to hurl insults at her mother, caught up in an emotional whirlwind, struggling to string together her hurtful words into coherent sentences. Vivian embraced the girl, and Alice buried her nose in his soft sweater, bursting into tears. "It's very late. Why isn't Alice asleep?" Mila asked. Vivian clenched his fists. "Is that what concerns you the most right now?" he asked, barely containing his anger. Naturally, the woman confirmed. "Our daughter worries me more than any quarrels with you. We've caused enough commotion for the neighbors. Let's go home and talk calmly there." She headed towards the door, and Theo obediently followed her. "Wait in the car, Theo," she requested. The man nodded. The wall clock ticked loudly in the silence. Mila hadn't noticed before how irritating their sounds were. The couch she sat on felt very cold. She hadn't noticed that before either. The whole room seemed to have cooled down. Vivian stood in the doorway, his silhouette looking somewhat intimidating in the dimly lit room. "I don't know what to say," the woman began. "It just happened." "How did it happen?" Vivian clarified. "Was it a ridiculous accident?" Mila added. She really didn't know what to say. If she confessed everything honestly, Vivian would leave. He wouldn't make a scene or fight, wouldn't try to prove anything. He would just leave her alone. No matter how much she begged, her husband wouldn't forgive betrayal. Mila knew him too well to think otherwise. "You fell in love with someone else, no problem. Go to him. I'd let you go without tying you down," Vivian said, "but why lie to me? Why stage a play? Even now, when you've been caught red-handed, you continue to do this." "I don't want you to leave," Mila confessed. Her husband looked surprised. "Yes," the woman nodded nervously. "I'm afraid to lose you." "I've only just realized how much I fear it," Mila said. "I won't go anywhere," Vivian replied. "This is my apartment, my things are here, and my daughter lives here. Do you really think that just because I saw you with your lover, I'll quietly pack my things and leave at sunset? And you'll bring that puppy here? Do you want me to leave?" Mila was stunned. The man confirmed it. "Your lover was boasting about how much he loves you. When I loved you, I provided you with a roof over your head. Now it's his turn." "And what about our daughter?" she asked. "Alice will decide for herself where and with whom to live," the man replied. "She's a grown-up girl." Mila realized that Alice would stay with her father. For the first time, she realized that her world was crumbling around her. Previously, she had never thought about it, she was just having fun, unaware of what she could lose. Vivian, sweetheart, life presents different situations. People make mistakes sometimes, Mila said quickly. I deeply regret what happened. We could give ourselves a chance and work together to fix the situation. We'll surely learn a lot from it. Yes, mistakes happen, and sometimes they're fatal, Vivian agreed, like in your case. Emotions play with you. Perhaps you could forgive me. Mila desperately searched for something to latch onto. I struggled not to hit you, the man admitted. He had never felt anything like this before. No, I won't be able to forgive. I know I'll always remember that cocky guy coming to my house, laughing in my face, recounting your conversations into pillow, and then you lied to me looking me in the eye. Please, stop, Mila pleaded. I lied because I didn't want to lose you. Isn't it clear? You could have just not cheated on me, he replied. It happened accidentally. I'm not interested in excuses, Vivian said, raising his voice slightly. You know my stance on marital infidelity. Are you trying to say you've never cheated on me in 16 years? Mila looked him in the eyes, hoping she had found that one straw to grasp. No, the man replied. I don't believe you. Mila nervously shrugged. Don't believe me, Vivian said indifferently. I couldn't care less. I'm clean. Fine, suit yourself. I'll leave. She forced a nervous smile. Just make sure you don't regret what you've done. Why would I care whether I regret losing you? You've gained such a treasure instead of your old boring husband who couldn't satisfy you. God, you're talking such nonsense, Mila sighed. She could hardly call Theo a treasure. She hadn't even had the chance to fully indulge in him, always torn between him and her husband, never really understanding what she wanted from Theo in the end. Get up, please. You're already late for work, Mila said firmly. They had been living together for about a month. At first, Mila thought she would spend the night at her lover's place a couple of times and then rent an apartment. But in the end, she stayed. The breakup with her husband had been hard for her. It felt like her favorite shoes had their heels cut off, and now she had to walk on tiptoes without any support. That's the allegory Mila used when talking to her friend. He was my support, you know. We made all the decisions together. And now Theo needs support himself, the woman lamented, feeling a bit like his mother. She struggled to wake Theo up for work early in the morning. He wasn't particularly fond of early mornings, or work, for that matter. After some time, Mila suggested that he switch to working in her showroom. Theo resisted at first, but then realized it was an excellent opportunity to earn a salary for his good looks. And so he became a salesperson, at least officially, but in reality, he chauffeured his boss around the city, picked up packages, delivered orders, and posed for advertisements. Mila never managed to mend her relationship with her daughter, Alice, who stubbornly refused to connect with her mother, seeing her only as an enemy. Mila attempted to find support from her ex-husband, Vivian. Please, talk to her, the woman implored. Explain that things aren't so straightforward. I didn't betray her. I don't think she'll listen to me. I can't teach her life lessons I don't follow myself, Mila admitted. I don't understand you. You're asking me to convince our daughter to forgive you, to explain that in life, things happen, that people drift apart, which is normal. I don't hold a grudge against you, and other such nonsense. But here's the catch, I don't think so. Yes, people drift apart, feelings can fade, but not betraying, not lying to someone's face. I can't tell our daughter that your behavior was normal. You still haven't forgiven me, she sighed. How much longer? Vivian chuckled, you know, I'm trying to forget and forgive you, but then, just when I start to, I remember everything again, he sarcastically remarked. Mila appreciated the joke but kept her smile in check. After meeting with her ex-husband, she went to the photo studio where the shoot was taking place. Theo was supposed to have finished work by then. Mila went up to the second floor and peeked into the hall. Theo was nowhere to be seen. The studio administrator informed her that he had already left. Mila grew angry. They had an agreement. Theo was supposed to wait for her. She dialed his number. "Yes, my queen," Theo cheerfully answered. "Where are you?" Mila asked. "In a cafe," he replied. "I went for coffee with the girls." Mila pursed her lips disapprovingly. She didn't like that Theo was getting too close to the models she hired for the shoots. "Then I'm going home," Mila announced capriciously. "All right, darling," the man replied. Theo didn't notice the hint of irritation in the woman's voice. He never sensed changes in her mood. Sometimes, Mila felt like he was just pretending. It was convenient for him to act as if nothing had happened. Mila would pout, then forget. However, occasionally, her accumulated dissatisfaction erupted into a loud and emotional argument. Mila didn't even suspect that she could argue so fiercely with her husband in all their years together. They had never had such vivid clashes. Once she threw a glass at Theo, he didn't hesitate and threw a computer mouse back at her. "Well done," Mila smirked as she left. "Thanks, madam, for your permission," Theo theatrically bowed. "Madam," Mila replied. "During the day, I'm the queen." "No, you're madam," Theo replied, taking off his sneakers. "And you're drinking my blood." "Fine," Mila said grimly and left. She remembered those occasions when Vivian returned home late. He would apologize for his state and quietly slip into the room, never starting fights or being rude to his wife. "Maybe you could take off your clothes," she suggested, noticing that Theo climbed onto the bed in his jacket. "I don't want to," he rudely replied. "It's my bed. I'll lie how I want." Mila waved her hand. It was pointless to talk to him at times like this. In the morning, Theo would apologize, kiss her hands, and shower her with compliments. With quick forgiveness, everything would return to normal. Theo once again rarely showed up at work, forgot Mila's requests, and occasionally exchanged messages with young women, whom he proudly called colleagues. One evening, when Mila returned home, she found her beloved asleep. She wanted to wake him to scold him for not meeting her expectations, but she realized he was heavily intoxicated. She waved it off again and went to take a shower. Standing in the bathroom, Mila listened attentively to the sound of water, pondering her situation. It seemed that at that moment, her patience had reached its limit. The whole story with Theo felt like a silly dream that never ended. She lost her husband, quarreled with her daughter, and even with a couple of friends when they criticized her for leaving her family for a man she didn't even love. It was all so absurd. "So, here's the deal," she commanded over breakfast. "Today, you're going to fix the problem you created yesterday. You're the responsible party according to the documents, and if I don't receive the clothes, you'll be compensating me for the damages." That's instead of a good morning and an aspirin tablet, Theo smiled. He tried to turn everything into a joke. "Good morning," Mila grimaced. "You'll take the aspirin yourself, and the order must be in the store today. Do you understand?" "Got it," Theo nodded. "I had one task, and then I can roam around, right?" The man clarified. "Seems a bit light," Mila agreed. "Yes, only one," she confirmed. "And don't forget, if you fail to complete it, I'll demand such a penalty from you that you won't believe it. Are you dumping me just in case?" Theo clarified again. "Yes, I'm tired of serving you," she replied. "I'm used to men of a different caliber, more successful and fuller." "Then why did you run away from your successful, smart old goat-to-me?" he asked. "I would live with him if he were such a wonderful person." Mila sighed and twirled her finger near her temple, addressing this gesture to either herself or Theo. The next day, Mila approached the iron door with the cherished apartment number where she and her husband had lived for so many years. It no longer seemed cold to her. On the contrary, it lured her in, like a magical land from childhood dreams. The woman opened the door with her key. Vivian still hadn't changed the locks, perhaps deep down, he hoped she would return. The man was home. "Hi," Mila said timidly and smiled. "Will you let me stay for a couple of days?" "Hi," Vivian replied flatly. "All the hotels in town are closed." "Please," Mila pleaded. "This is your apartment, but I've invested a lot in it too. I think I have the right to spend a couple of nights here." "Did your beloved kick you out?" Vivian inquired. "She left on her own," Mila answered. "And where did Alice go?" "Isn't it too late for her to be out?" "It's better now than when she gets married," the man replied from one of the rooms. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. Vivian rushed to it. It was Alice calling. "Dad, please come and get me," the girl pleaded with a trembling voice. "What happened? Where are you?" he quickly asked. "At the police station," his daughter replied, sobbing. "Alice, dear, calm down. I'll come and pick you up right away," Vivian, the ex-husband, reassured her over the phone. Meanwhile, Mila anxiously watched him. It was evident from his face that something terrible had happened. "Did Alice get into trouble?" Mila asked. "Is everything okay?" "She'll be fine. I'll bring her home now," Vivian quickly responded, heading towards the door. "I'm coming with you," Mila shouted. "Why do you need me?" the ex-husband asked, creating a scene. "I'm her mother." "And I was your husband, but sometimes you forgot about that," he retorted. "Forget it now," Vivian snapped. "Enough," Mila shouted back, delivering a sharp slap to her husband's face. The man froze in place, emotionally commenting, "Vivian, please, why are you speaking with such a trembling voice?" She pleaded. "I've apologized 100 times, regretted 100 times. And even in such a situation, you continue to hurt me. By the way, it's because of living with you that our daughter got into trouble. You allowed her everything just to stay her favorite daddy. And I've always been the bad one. Look what came out of it. I would gladly discuss and even endure your sudden violence, but my daughter is waiting for me," the ex-husband replied that he abruptly turned and left the apartment. Mila covered her face with her hands and slowly slid down the wall. She really wanted to cry, but for some reason, she couldn't. A heavy sadness lay on her heart like a stone. Mila stared at the wall, unable to understand why fate had mocked her so. All the good things that had happened in her life seemed to have passed by like a rushing train, leaving behind only beautiful memories. Vivian removed all the joint photos from the apartment. Mila wondered if it was because he hated her so much or because he couldn't bear to look indifferently at the remnants of the past. What was he thinking? Looking at their happy faces, Mila realized that she didn't know how to go on living. Where could she find new happiness to replace what was lost forever? She wiped her eyes, which had become moist, and glanced at the clock. What could have happened to Alice? The woman dialed her daughter's number, not expecting any response. "Hello, Mom," came from the phone. Mila's breath caught. It had been too long since she'd heard her daughter's voice. "Alice, where are you? What happened?" Mila asked, swallowing air in confusion. "We're on our way home, Dad and I," the girl replied. "Sorry, Mom, I messed up. We went for a ride with friends, and we got stopped. My friend didn't have a license. Are you okay?" Mila rambled. "I'm fine," Alice sniffled, "I was just worried. Everything's okay?" "Yes, Mom, it was just late, and I was outside. I won't do it again." Suddenly, Mila also started crying. It turns out she still had tears, they just flowed when needed. You can't bring back the past, but you can remember it with joy. This beaten phrase was not yet surpassed, Mila thought. Perhaps it was time for Mila to let go of Vivian and stop demanding apologies from him. They would never be spouses again. But they would always be parents, and that was more important than personal problems. The entrance door creaked quietly. Mila got up from the floor. Alice burst into tears again, clinging to her mother's neck as if there had been no long resentment, complete ignoring, and accusations of betrayal just a couple of days ago. After a couple of days, Mila found a place to stay. She could have found a better option, but she wanted to move away from her ex-husband as quickly as possible. Mila found time to think about many things. She stopped demanding apologies from her ex-husband and gradually accepted the fact that this man no longer belonged to her. Teo didn't worry about the missed shipment once Mila announced their breakup. He disappeared from her sight. Mila contacted a lawyer to help prepare a lawsuit. She intended to recover the investments she had made. Mila was sure she would never see her former lover again, but she was wrong. When he learned about the lawsuit against him, the foolish boy came to her workplace. "Let's talk," he shouted, seeing the store owner in the parking lot. Mila didn't immediately believe that Teo had the audacity to show up before her. However, remembering his past actions, the questions disappeared on their own. Mila looked closely at him. His eyes were wide open, the gaze just as deep but not sincere at all. Where had that depth gone that once attracted her? "What do you want?" she asked, unimpressed. "Queen." "Why the courts?" "I may be, but I'm in love," Teo quickly got to the point. Mila once took it for naivety. Now she understood it was just a trick. "If only you could be forgiven," Teo continued. "Forgive me for everything, Your Majesty," he said quickly. "Wait, stop," Mila interrupted him. "You'll pay the penalty. And you'll forget about our relationship forever." Teo, occupied with his thoughts, asked, "Has your husband forgiven you?" "No," shrugged Mila. "We divorced long ago." "How did it go for you?" "Successful, smart old goat," smirked Teo. "You're even more foolish than I thought," she replied, which was all he had hoped for when he came here. "Even if you win the court case, you've still lost," the man said, patting her on the shoulder. "Goodbye, divorcee," he left. And Mila sat in the car for a long time, pondering how easily and simply the naive boy dishes out remarks that inexplicably hurt so much. "I behaved wrong. I should have talked to you back then," tried to explain. "But I chose the easiest and at the same time the scariest path, considering you a stupid child, and your grievances toward me as teenage maximalism." Mila rubbed her reddened cheeks. It was their first adult conversation with Alice. This mistake, which adults often make, not only in relationships with children but also towards each other, demanding understanding through the depreciation of the other person's feelings. "I didn't even think once about how painful it was for Dad, how hurtful it was for you. I thought the worst of it was for me. After all, it was me whom my husband kicked out of the house, and my daughter didn't want to communicate with me. I apologize. They don't want to forgive, my feelings are hurt, and yours aren't even noticed by me," the woman sighed. It turned out to be much easier to speak sincerely than she had thought. You can't demand forgiveness and understanding from people, you usually ask for it, and it's up to the offended person to decide whether to grant your request or not. "I'm very sorry it turned out this way, and I apologize for not being able to hear you." Alice turned out to be mature enough to listen and clever enough to hear. "I'm not sure, Mom, if I could have had a dialogue with you back then," the daughter confessed, "but time passed and things settled down. But I haven't forgotten anything." "I understand," Mila agreed. "You and Dad won't be together anymore?" Alice asked. "I don't think so," the woman replied honestly, "but we're still your family. No matter what happens." Alice graduated from high school and entered college. She lived with her parents, alternating between the first floor in her father's house and the one in her mother's. Vivian opened a dental clinic, and one of the doctors, who had accidentally pierced his tire right in the yard, soon became his wife. They easily found common ground with Alice. Mila also met another man. But they didn't live together for very long. She no longer aspired to marry, though who knows how her life will turn out. Thank you for making our channel a part of your story. Keep unraveling the knots of love with us and immersing yourself in the world of unique emotions. See you soon on Tangled Hearts.